everybody, it's your friendly digital technology librarian, Christy here. We've reached another Friday, so of course, I have another Film Rec Friday ready for everybody out there. Now, with schools and universities all returning to session across the country, this is the perfect time for a little list of movies all about education and teaching. And so I've put together a little rec list of 3 movies that are all incredibly different with really disparate themes and tones, but that all have 3 similarly engrossing stories. Whether we're talking about films based on real life people and true situations, or we're talking about classic screwball romantic comedies, these are all movies that I think you will absolutely fall in love with. As always, these films are available to you entirely for free with the use of your Milan-Berlin library card, and you can find them on one of our streaming video services. Those are CleveNet's Overdrive, Hoopla Digital, and Canopy. So without any further ado, let's hop right into the Rex. Okay, kicking things off with a selection from Hoopla Digital, and that is 2007's Freedom Writers. Now, this is a really interesting film. It's based on a couple of different true life elements. One is it's based on the life of Erin Gruel at a very particular time. She was a teacher at this incredibly racially divided high school in Long Beach, California. She managed to put together this English class of students who were aligned along, totally different gang lines. You had gang rivals in there. You had kids who were dealing with some incredibly heavy situations. And she inspired them to write their stories down in these composition diaries that she got for them. And she put together these programs about tolerance that really did end up speaking to these kids. So you've got that element. And then you also have the fact that it's based on a book called The Freedom Writer's Diary that Erin put together with a number of her students and her students' diary entries. So you've got very real, very raw retellings of situations. So it's very, very hard to watch in some spots because you're dealing with these situations that are absolutely horrible. But you've also got a lot of elements that really are shout outs to be better, to try and get inspired about different situations. So phenomenally interesting storyline, but you've also got that storyline anchored by incredible acting. The students in the film are primarily first-time actors, some of whom were kids who pulled from their own life experiences with gangs and gang violence and things like that. And then you also have this really, really storied stable of established actors playing many of the adults. Erin is played by Hilary Swank, who is phenomenal in everything she's in. She was in Million Dollar Baby, of course, Boys Don't Cry. She's won an Oscar. She's just really, really solid. And you need someone like that to play the Gruel character. You also have Imelda Staunton, who is phenomenal. Imelda Staunton you probably know from films like Harry Potter movies, but you also probably recognize her face from being in tons and tons of incredible films. Patrick Dempsey is in this. You've got a number of character actors whose names you might not know, but whose faces will be very familiar. So you've got phenomenal acting on top of a really compelling storyline. And it's just a really well done film that I think will leave you feeling inspired and will leave you feeling like a call to arms about education and its importance in every school and every person's life. If you are looking for a movie that does that like grabs you from the very get-go, because this absolutely does, this might be the perfect pick for you. It doesn't drag. It's a drama, but it doesn't feel dull in any parts, because sometimes there are films based on true life stories that do sort of bog down in like details and things like that, but this one never really feels that way. It definitely just keeps moving forward. The momentum is really, really fast paced. So I think you'll really enjoy it, and highly recommend it. Again, this is Freedom Writers, available on Hoopla Digital. Okay, moving on to my next pick. This one is available on Canopy, and it's 2021's Lunana, A Yak in the Classroom. I absolutely loved this movie. I'd been wanting to watch it for ages and ages. I'd heard about it back when it was nominated for Best International Feature at the Academy Awards, and I just never had the chance to sit down and actually view it, but I'm so glad I did. It's just a really beautiful film. So in Lunana, we're following a young man. His name is Uyen. He's just completed his 4th year out of 5 years of teaching training, and he just really doesn't want to be a teacher. He really does not want to be a teacher. He in fact wants to be a singer, and he wants to move to Australia to pursue his dream. So he's just not interested. He is, though, convinced to follow through with his training, to complete everything, and he ends up being sent to this incredibly remote village in the mountains. And the second he finds out, he's just done with everything. He's incredibly upset. He's miserable about what's going to happen. He knows it's just going to be a waste of his time, because again, this is not what he wants to do. But he goes. The opening of his new life in this incredibly remote village, which has 56 people, we're told on screen, 56 people, is not overwhelmingly positive. He discovers a lot of incredibly difficult things that he's going to be dealing with compared to his life in the big city. And again, he's just definitely not pleased about his situation. Of course, he very quickly starts to get caught up in the lives of the people in this village, though, and I think that's what makes this film so enjoyable. Uyen could very easily be a rather flat character, somebody who just hates everything, who's very self-absorbed, who just doesn't want to deal with things that he's not interested in. But that's not how this character comes across. And I think in part because the performance is just really fantastically well done. The young man who plays Uyen is really solid. But like the characters we meet are also just so easy to sink into. You really believe that he gets caught up in the stories of the young man who helps bring him up this incredibly long mountain trail. There's some really great scenes during this trail trek too, by the way. He really quickly gets attached to this young man. They become friends. He starts to meet other village elders. He meets the children, and that's where things really start to change for him. Like the minute he meets this young one who is like the class president, and she's just adorable, and he gets attached to her very quickly, especially once he finds out about her family life. I mean, it's just the stories between these different characters, whether we're talking about his interactions with children or adults, are all really beautiful. There's a little bit of a romantic line potentially. There's never really a romance there, but you feel those threads of connection in the performance and the story. And it's just, I don't know, there's just something so soft and sweet and lovely about the whole film. You've got incredible cinematography. I mean, there are some shots in the mountains that are seriously breathtaking. I mean, you just stop and you think that can't possibly be real, because it is just that beautiful, and just like the light just gets caught in such a way. Again, the cinematography is incredible in this, and the music. I really love aspects of the music in this. So just sound editing in general, really great. Background tone and everything like that. But then there are a couple of songs that are really quite integral to the plot, and I don't want to give too much of that part away because it's very important. But those songs in particular they resonate very much. They're not something that I could recreate. Like, I could not sing it back to you, but it doesn't matter because I can still sort of feel what I felt while I was watching the movie. And that emotion 100% will carry over long past the time the film is over. Um, you have, as mentioned, really, really lovely storyline, excellent acting, absolutely gorgeous cinematography, solid music, and just this overall tone that it seems so like hippy dippy, but it feels like a warm hug. I mean, it really, really does. Watching this movie is just so inspiring. Like it's a love letter to education, it's a love letter to teachers, to students, to the idea of learning for the sake of learning, that knowledge is important, and the action of passing on knowledge is incredibly valuable too. And one of the things that I was so intrigued by while watching this is how with these students, you know, it, like, gender didn't matter, like every, like, poverty is so prevalent in this film, where it's very clear that, like, Uyen Uyen comes from a very different economic background from these villagers that he's interacting with, and how it education is so prized by these people. So he is someone that touches the future. A teacher is someone who touches the future, and I think that phrase is just so beautiful, and it's used multiple times. And I actually watched a couple of interviews with the director afterward, and he'd said he'd seen the phrase that teachers touch the future when he was a kid, and it just stuck with him his entire life. So there are just so many little beautiful nuanced moments in this movie that I just think everybody should watch it. It is subtitled. I know some people hate subtitles, but this one is absolutely worthwhile to watch. It really, really is. Um, so again, Lunana, a yak in the classroom. If you're looking for something sweet, something lovely that will leave you feeling good at the end, that will, cast a rosy glow on the concept of, like, knowledge for knowledge's sake, please, please, please check out Lunana, a yak in the classroom. It's, again, my pick of the week and a phenomenal, phenomenal film. Okay, my last selection from this week is also available on Canopy, and that is 1958's Teacher's Pet. Now, this one is a total throwback to that classic screwball romance era. Teacher's Pet stars Doris Day, Clark Gable, Gig Young, Mamie Van Doren, all of these big names from the golden era. And it's just this really fun, ridiculous film, but that actually has some fairly nuanced elements to it. So in Teacher's Pet, we meet James Gannon, who's played by Clark Gable. He is this sort of hardened, really experienced journalist. Everything that he ever needed to know, he learned on the job. Doesn't have anything like a journalism degree. He thinks journalism degrees are ridiculous. Our other protagonist is Erica Stone, played by Doris Day. She is a journalism professor. She absolutely thinks that education is vital to the profession, where you need to know those details in order to be a solid journalist. So Stone at the beginning does not know that Gannon has the opinions that he has, so she invites him to speak at her night class. He responds and rejects her invitation through this really rudely written letter. And he is, in fact, required by his boss to go to this class and talk about what journalism is. When he gets to her class, she's actually reading his rudely worded letter, and rather than confront her about the situation, he pretends to just be this regular Joe who wants to learn, who wants to be part of her class. And he sort of, thinks that he can sort of undermine things this way. Of course, he ends up really liking her and kind of enjoying himself in these classes, and she finds herself interested in him, and there are all these little adorable moments when they're learning each other and sort of learning their points of view. In addition to side characters played by this guy that Gannon perceives as his rival, Ki Young, who was nominated for Best Supporting Actor for his role in this. And then Gannon actually already has a girlfriend who is this nightclub singer, played by Mamie Van Doren. So you've got these other complications going on besides the fact that Stone and Gannon's entire relationship is based on this sort of half-known lie. But it still manages to be a really fun film. And their arguments are actually, I don't know if nuanced is too strong of a word, but it's far more even than I imagined it would be. It really is the two of them sort of learning one another's points of view. It does at moments feel like there's a give and take. It's not like by the end of the film, well, Gannon was a total idiot, or oh, Stone's point of view is totally out there and ridiculous. There is a little bit of both that, is validated. So, in that regard, it is somewhat more nuanced. But at the end of the day, it's just a screwball romance, and it's really enjoyable in that. And the two of them have really solid chemistry. They're really likable together, and it was just a lot of fun to watch. It's one of those movies that will definitely leave you feeling warm and fuzzy. As mentioned, I'd watched it when I was a kid. I'd actually watched it with my mom, and I know she was a huge Doris Day fan. Um, and it just is a nice little throwback to the movies with Doris Day that we used to watch. And I think a lot of people will have those little kind of shout outs to their past and watching movies with their parents. And that's always something that I find really beautiful about film. Like, it's not just about the movie itself, but it's about how it connects in the story of your own life. And that's for me definitely like all of those classic Hollywood, golden era Hollywood films, like watching them with grandparents or parents or whatever. So yeah, Teacher's Pet works really well on a lot of levels. Just as a movie itself, lots of fun, witty dialogue, great chemistry between the stars, and then just as a piece of film history, it's nice, it's enjoyable. So again, available on Canopy, Teacher's Pet. Definitely check it out. Okay, so that is it for today's episode. If you have any recommendations for films about education, teachers, learning that you would like to share, please comment with those below. I always love getting recommendations for movies. It's loads of fun. If you have any recommendations for themes you'd like to see us cover in the future, definitely comment with those. Would absolutely love help with that. As always, thank you so much for tuning in this week. I love putting these videos together. It's so much fun to do deep dives into our library's catalog, see what's there, see what's new. We really do have new films being added to our different services pretty much multiple times a week. If you can't find something today, that's no guarantee that you won't find something tomorrow. So again, please make sure you check out our video services, CleveNet's Overdrive, Hoopla Digital, and Canopy. With that, I'm going to close things out. Again, thank you for watching, and I will see you next week. Bye-bye!